A pleasant day to everyone and welcome to this video lesson for SEM 20, the problem solving strategies. For today's lesson, we'll be discussing problem strategy using algebra or using a variable, looking for a pattern, making a list, and solving a simpler problem. For the using algebra and variables, how to use this strategy, we have to look for a pattern that can be described in words and or in general formula, and then we find the patterns, look at the sequences of numbers, look at input or output table for rule, start with simpler case first, and use finite differences. Let's use this strategy. And then when to use this strategy, the phrase any number is used. Kapag daw merong any number, ginagamit natin itong strategy na to. Any number that can be represented by a variable, a letter, a known variable, anything. There is a list of numbers that can be generated from the problem. There is an input or output that can be described as a rule, and a large number of cases are involved. Kapag pwede siyang ma-generalize, then we are using this strategy, okay? Using algebra or variables. Like for example, we have this type of problem. Then you are asked to determine the sum of the first 50 odd counting numbers. The first step is to identify the numbers. Odd counting numbers are 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on hanggang maka-50 tayo, na? Then I am adding together the first 50 of these odd numbers starting with 1 plus 3 plus 5 hanggang makarating tayo dun sa pang 50 na odd numbers. And then the step 2 is to plan. Then plan what to start with simpler problems and look for a pattern in the smaller or simpler sum. Of course, mahihirapan kayo kung i-add nyo ng isa-isa yung 50 odd numbers. No? Though meron na tayong calculator, you will be arriving at an answer, at a correct answer, but it's better if you apply this problem-solving strategy para mas maging madali ang pagsasolve. Okay? Then the step 3 is to use an input or output table to keep track of the simpler sums and look for a pattern. Like for example, we have this table. Your inputs are the first, second, third, fourth, fifth odd number, and then what odd numbers I am adding. The first one is 1, the second is 1 plus 3, third 1 plus 3 plus 5, fourth 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7, then fifth 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9. And then your outputs are the following. For first, you have 1, second 4, for the third you have 9, for fourth the sum is 16, and for the fifth the sum is 25. The input is how many odd numbers am I adding, and the output is what is the sum. And as you observe this table, you'll be seeing a pattern, right? So maybe we could have different pattern observation from this table, but still, that's a pattern na pwede natin gamitin para maging basis natin in adding the first 50 odd numbers. The pattern that related the input to the output is the sum of n numbers of odd numbers is n by n. N by n meaning if you have 1, then you multiply 1 by 1, you'll have 1. If you have 4, then you multiply 4 by 4, then you'll have 16. That's the sum. The sum of the first 3 odd numbers was 3 times 3. Let's check if that's correct. So 3 times 3 is equal to 9, correct? Because 1 plus 3 plus 5 is equal to 9. So the sum of the first 50 odd numbers is 50 by 50. So that's 50 times 50 is equal to 2,500 upon looking into the pattern of the inputs and outputs of the table, in the table. Okay? So the sum of the first 50 odd numbers is equal to 2,500. Then after getting that answer, you have to look back and verify your answer. Meaning you check whether your answer is right or wrong. Imagine each odd number represented by tiles in the following shapes. Okay, note that the number of tiles used represents the odd number. So below are 1, 3, and 5. As you can see, if you put this square in this place, you'll be forming a square with two sides with 2 as its measurement of the side. And its area is equal to 4. So the sum of the first two odd number is equal to 4. And then if you put these 3 tiles and another 1 tile here, you'll be forming another square. Ibig sabihin, that's justifiable that the sum of the 50 odd numbers is equal to 50 squared, and 50 squared is equal to 2,500. Here it is. We add the shapes. 1 plus 3 is equal to 4, and then 4 plus 5 is equal to 9. Next, pattern strategy. So that's the first one, algebra or variables. For the pattern strategy, when to use this strategy, a list of data is given. Kapag meron tayong list ng mga data, then we use pattern strategy. A list or sequence of numbers is involved. Pag meron tayong mga list or sequence ng numbers, pwede trying to predict or generalize. So we use pattern strategy if we want to predict or generalize. Make a list strategy naman, kailan natin itong ginagamit. When looking for a pattern or rule, data can be easily generated and organized, listing results from guess and test. Totoo naman yan, na in mathematics, hindi naman laging definite ang ating strategy. Sometimes you have to take a risk. Sometimes you have to do the trial and error before you come up with the right answer. And then solve a simpler problem. When to use this strategy? Problem involves complex or complicated computation. May mga problems kasi na nagre-require ng maraming steps, no? Meron din naman mga problems na masosolve mo siya if you try to solve a small or simpler problem. And then it involves very large or small numbers. Then look for a pattern or rule afterwards. Let's have an example here. A mathematician, Carl Friedrich Gauss, was a mathematician that made many contributions to math, physics, astronomy, and related sciences. A story of his knowledge of math at a young age is attributed to his exasperated third-grade teacher. Ayan. So kaya daw yung Gaussian number, kaya na-discover ito because of Carl Friedrich Gauss. One time kasi nagkaklase sila ng kanyang teacher kasama yung kanilang mga kaklase. Dahil itong si Carl, sobrang nadadalian na siya dun sa mga lessons, ano? So the teacher was constantly trying to find things for Gauss to do since he always finished his math lessons way before his classmates. Mas madali niya kasing na sasagutan, ano, yung mga activities, yung mga problems. Kaya itong si teacher, yung teacher ni Carl Friedrich Gauss, nag-iisip siya lagi ng ibang gagawin ni Carl kasi way ahead itong si Gauss sa iba niyang mga klase. And then one time, nagbigay si teacher ni Carl sa kanya ng assignment at yun yung i-add daw niya yung 1 through 100, no? Mula 1 hanggang 100, i-add ni Carl Friedrich Gauss kasi sa isip ng teacher, medyo matatagalan siya. No? Remember that in this time, wala pang calculator. Okay? But the teacher was astounded when Gauss was able to complete the task in only a few minutes. Saglit lang tuloy na na-solve ni Carl Friedrich Gauss yung activity na akala ni teacher matatagalan para maging busy sana siya. How did he do this so quickly? Paano ginawa ni Carl doon na sobrang dali niyang na-add yung numbers from 1 to 100? Step 1. We are adding the counting numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on up to 100. That's the problem. Step 2. Combine strategies of making a list or pwede rin namang table, solving simpler problems, looking for a pattern, and using a variable. Take note that input will be how many numbers I am adding. Output is the sum of the numbers. Okay? So, input, how many numbers? 1, 1, What are the numbers? 1. So the output is 1. Input, how many numbers we are going to add? So the numbers are 1 and 2. So 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. Input, how many numbers do we need to add? 3. And then those are 1 plus 2 plus 3, and that is 6. Then for the input, how many numbers do we need to add? 4. And those numbers are 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, and the output or sum is equal to 10. And then for the fifth one, we have to add 5 numbers, and those numbers are 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, and the output is equal to 15. From this table, I know that there is already a pattern that na pwede nating makuha, no? Na pwede nating gamitin for us to solve our main problem na nakita din ni Carl Friedrich Gauss. There seems to be no operation that clearly relates the input to the output. Input times 2, for example. Okay? The finite difference does not give much insight. Medyo mahirap, no? Hindi katulad kanina nung nag-add tayo ng add numbers. Gauss tried a new approach as follows. Ito yung ginawa ni Gauss. Write the numbers you are adding in reverse order. So, kung 1 to 100 yun, o kung 1 to 10 muna, no? 1 to 10, isinulat niya yun ang pabaliktad. So, 10 to 1. And then, compare each pair top number pair to bottom number. So, meron nakasulat sa taas, may nakasulat sa baba. Tapos, in-add niya ngayon. Ano? So, 10 to 1 at saka 1 to 10. So, ang magkatapat si 10 at si 1, that's 11. Magkatapat si 9 at si 2, then in-add niya, that's 11. Magkatapat si 8 at saka si 3, in-add niya, that's 11. And then, na-realize niya na hanggang sa dulo yon, ang magkatapat si 1 at si 10, the sum is still 11. So, yun yung pattern tuloy na nabuo ni Gauss. Okay? In here, you have 2 pairs of 3s, so that's 2 times 3 is equal to 6, 3 times 4 is equal to 12, 4 times 5 equals 20, 5 times 6 equals 30. So what is the relationship now? If you are adding 2 pairs of 3s, you have exactly twice the output for the sum of the first 2 numbers. If adding 3 pairs of 4s, you get 12, which is double the output for the sum of the first 3 numbers, 1, 2, plus 3. If adding 4 pairs of 5, you get 20. So that's 4 times 20 to get 4 times 5 to get 20, which is double the sum of the first 4 numbers. And so on. So if I want to add the numbers 1 to 10 using this pattern, I would take the list. Ayan yung sinasabi natin kanina na 1 to 10 and then 10 to 1. Okay, then reversing the list gives you 10 pairs of 11. That's true. So 10 yung number. And then what is the sum of the highest and the lowest? That's 11. And then 10 pairs of 11. So you will have 110. But this is double of the answer that you need. So you have to divide 110 by 2 to get 55. So 110 divided by 2 is equal to 55, and 55 is the sum of numbers from 1 to 10. How do you write this using variables? What is the sum of 1 plus 2 plus 3 up to 10? So using variables, adding n, number of the counting numbers, can be found by when n was 10, n plus 1 was 11. Okay, take note that this is n, 10 yon, ano, times number of pairs ay the sum of the highest and the lowest, that's n plus 11, n plus 1, which is 11. And then n is 10 times 11, that is equal to 110 divided by 2, that's equal to 55. So to get the sum of the first 100, you will just have 100 times 100 plus 1 is 101 divided by 2. So that is equal to 10,100. And then divide it by 2 is equal to 5,050. So there you go. That's another way of solving problems. I hope that you learned something from our discussion. Thank you very much, everyone. Keep safe and God bless you.